Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'd like to call the May meeting of the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners to order. Safety instructions, Mr. Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call on Ms. Best to read us our safety instructions for tonight.
Good evening. To provide for the safety of those attending this meeting, please listen to the following instructions in case of an emergency. First, please take a moment to note where your exits are. If an emergency arises that prompts us to evacuate, please exit this room in a quick and orderly manner through one of the two doors to your right, and then proceed to the nearest stairwell, directions to which are indicated by the exit signs. Once you exit the building, we ask that you safely cross Granville Street, which is the street that runs beside our building, to our parking lot to be safely away from the building. Our staff will provide additional direction and assistance as needed. In the case of a tornado warning, please exit this room into the hallway where we will all remain until it is safe to exit. And in the event of an active shooter in the building, if there is an accessible escape path, please run and try to evacuate the premises. If you can't evacuate, find a place to hide where you are less likely to be found and lock any doors that you can. And as a last resort, and only if your life is in imminent danger, please fight, and our staff will provide additional direction and assistance on what to do. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Bass. Ms. Harris, prayer, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day of life, health, and strength. Lord, we thank you for those who are gathered, those who would like to be here and cannot. Lord, we ask you to keep us on one accord so that we might do the business of this county that makes it a better place for every citizen to live. In your Son, Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. You have in your agenda package the minutes from the previous meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Public hearing number one, a public hearing to discuss proposed substantial amendments to 2025 annual action plan and to annual action plans for 2019-24 for home funds through the Down East Home Consortium. The public hearing is called to order. Mr. Peters, would you please read the public notice?
Yes, sir. The City of Rocky Mount and the Down East Home Consortium have prepared an annual action plan for fiscal year 2025 for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD Community Development Block Grant CDBG program and the Home Investment Partnerships Program Home Funds. The annual action plan for fiscal year 2025 outlines how the city intends to expend an estimated $495,363 in CDBG funds and $359,420 in home funds. The city is also proposing substantial amendments to the 2019 through 2024 annual action plans as described below. In order to obtain the views of citizens, public agencies, and other interested parties, the planned and substantial amendments will be on display for 30 days beginning April 12, 2025 through May 12, 2025 at the following locations: in Rocky Mount at Department of Housing and Community Development, Edgecombe County Administration Building. Notice is also given that 2 public hearings to discuss the plan and proposed amendments will be held as follows: Rocky Mount, North Carolina, Monday, April 28, 2025 at 4:00 p.m. in the Frederick E. Turnage Municipal Building, 3rd floor, 331 South Franklin Street in Rocky Mount. Edgecombe County, North Carolina, Monday, May 5th, 2025 at 6:00 p.m. Commissioners Room, 2nd floor, 201 St. Andrew Street, Tarboro, North Carolina. Both public hearing locations are accessible to persons with physical disabilities. Anyone requiring special accommodations or required presentation in language other than English should contact Stephanie Taylor, Community Development Manager, Department of Housing and Community Development, at stephanie.taylor@rockymountainc.gov or by calling 252-972-1267 at least 48 hours in advance of the hearing date and time. The city has prepared amendments to the annual action plan for the years 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. These amendments are necessary to transfer funds between planned projects, adjust for actual expenditures for completed projects, and fully fund projects underway and ensure timely expenditures. The draft amendments are available for a 30-day public review and comment period from April 12, 2025 through May 12, 2025. Some projects are outlined in the notice. The proposed amendments will reduce the budget of housing and rehabilitation projects by $338,196 and transfer funds to economic development projects and down payment assistance projects. transfer eligible CHDO set-aside funds in the amount of $420,625 to a project that will develop single-family homes for resale to income-eligible households, and reduce the budget of housing rehabilitation projects by $387,194, and transfer funds to the down payment assistance projects and develop homeownership units to facilitate home ownership for low and moderate income households. All interested citizens are encouraged to attend one or both of the public hearings, and they will be given the opportunity to present oral or written testimony concerning the proposed use of CDBG and home funds included in the plan. Written comments may also be addressed to Stephanie Taylor, Community Development Manager, Department of Housing and Community Development, 331 South Franklin Street, Post Office Box 1180, Rocky Mount, NC 27802. Written comments on the draft 2025 Annual Action Plan and proposed substantial amendments are encouraged and should be received no later than May 12, 2025 to be considered in the plan. It is anticipated that the City Council for the City of Rocky Mount will take up the Annual Action Plan and propose substantial amendments at its regular meeting on May 12, 2025 at 7 o'clock p.m. in the City Council Chambers, 331 South Franklin Street, Rocky Mount. Upon the approval of the City Council, the Annual Action Plan and amendments will be submitted to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD on or after May 15, 2025.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As you will recall, that the city of Rocky Mount is an entitlement city, so they receive housing funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development directly. They also serve as the lead entity for the Down East Home Consortium, which the county is a member. So they oversee the home funds, which is similar to the community development block grant funds. And so annually they have to submit a plan for the use of those funds that covers the portion that's expended in the county, as well as any changes to the existing action plan. So tonight we have with us Ms. Stephanie Taylor. She is the Community Development Manager with the City of Rocky Mount, and she's going to review the action plan that's presented.
Go ahead, Mr.
Good evening, Commissioners and County Manager. Tonight, the agenda is to have an overview of the 2025 Annual Action Plan, review community priorities as identified in the 2024 to 2026 Consolidated Plan, discuss estimated resources available for FY 2025, summarize proposed projects for CDBG and home, discuss plan amendments to reallocate CDBG and home funds, and also request feedback from the public on plan activities and amendments. What is an annual action plan? An annual action plan is a one-year strategy that outlines how the City of Rocky Mount will utilize the CDBG and home funds and support local priorities. The plan period is from July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. The goals and priorities are established in the consolidated plan for 2024 to 2026. CDBG funds will be dispersed to benefit low and moderate income residents. The priority needs are to increase access and improve quality of affordable housing, eliminate slum and blight, improve public facilities and infrastructure, expand public services, economic development, planning, and administration. The estimated resources for home and CDBG. For CDBG, estimated allocation $495,363 and home $359,420. These are just estimates. The final numbers will be released when HUD release those numbers. The proposed activities for CDBG for FY 2025: single family housing rehab, home buyer assistance, Section 108 loan repayment, public services, planning, and administration. The proposed budget for the 2025 CDBG allocation, administration, $99,072, Section 108 loan, $87,243, public services, $74,304, home buyers assistance, $100,000, homeowner rehab, $134,744, which is a total of $495,363. The proposed home budget allocation, 10% would be set aside for program admin for $35,941. Rocky Mount Home Scatter Site Housing Rehab, $168,927. Community Housing Development Organization set aside, $53,913. Edgecombe County Scatter Site Housing Rehab, $71,884. Other Down East Home Consortium PJ Scatter Site Housing Rehab, $14,378. Down East Home Consortium PJ Sharpsburg, $14,377, which gives us a total of $359,420. The CDBG proposed amendments is to reallocate CDBG funding from 2022 to 2024 from housing rehab to economic development and to down payment assistance. The proposed home amendments for 2019 to 2024 is to reallocate total set aside dollar amount to develop home ownership units. The additional amount is to reallocate Rocky Mount Reserve and the scatter site rehab amount to down payment assistance and to develop home ownership units. The next steps, right now we have a public display and a 30-day comment period that will end on May 12th. We will do a final presentation May 12th to the Rocky Mount City Council. Submission of the 2025 Annual Action Plan and the amended plans to HUD is due May 15th, and the program year begins January 1, 2025. For more information on provided written comments, you can submit that to me, Stephanie Taylor, Community Development Manager, 252-972-1267, or my email, stephanie.taylor@rockymountnc.gov.
Any questions for Ms. Taylor?
I did.
Go ahead.
I know we want people to become homeowners,
Yes, ma'am.
but the complaint I get are from people who need their homes rehabilitated.
Okay.
And see, I see here where you want to reduce the amount of money that you help people rehabilitate what they have in hopes of developing new home ownership. And down payment assistance is good, but it's no good if they can't continue it once they get into the home. But we've got a lot of people, especially a lot of elderly people, who need their homes rehabbed. So I'm wondering, did we help in making this decision that we would reduce the amount for rehab, or is that just coming out of Rocky Mount?
Well, I'll note, and if Ms. Taylor has anything she wants to add. So just as a reminder to me as well. So with the home funds, we are a member. You see the towns that were listed are members as well. City of Rocky Mount is the lead entity. So the amount that's available for each of the members is calculated by population and depending on the amount that is allocated. So what is available to us being the county outside of the city limits of Rocky Mount, is a relatively small amount of money. So Mr. Spell is our representative on the Down East Home Consortium Board. They vote our funds that we use out in the county we're using for rehabilitation. Then the city of Rocky Mount gets to choose inside. Now, they also have other funds that come available to them, like the Community Development Block Grant funds and others. And so, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the down payment assistance that's how the city plans to use their portion of the funds.
Yes, that's correct. So let me go back to the amendment portion. Give me 1 second. So for these funding, this is CDBG, which is just allocated to the city of Rocky Mount. So that's how we're planning to utilize those funds. We're moving it from housing rehab to down payment assistance. So those funds are not available to Edgecombe County. Let me go to the second amendment. So the second amendment is for the Chodo set aside. Those funding was previously allocated for rental development. We just reallocated for home ownership units. Those funds was previously allocated to the Chodo set aside. So that's a 15% minimum that HUDs allow us to set aside for development.
But, your concern is certainly valid, and I think that's part of the reason of having these public hearings is to get that kind of feedback. So thank you for that.
And even the amount we're getting when we rehab one house.
Yeah, our allocation is 71,000, correct?
Yeah, and
71,000, let me go back.
it's while we Certainly.
Yes,
we
that's correct. For
Appreciate that.
2025, and Edgecombe does have a balance of $325,000 for housing rehab.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
The total allocation used to be a lot more years ago.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. If we need you, will.
Thank you.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we call for public comments. If there's anybody here who would like to speak, please come forward and state your name and address for the public record. Is anybody who would like to speak?
Good evening.
Please.
Camille Dancy, 127 Midway Lane, Tarboro, North Carolina. This is my physical address, P.O. Box 1391, Pine Top, North Carolina is my mailing address. I live 3 miles out of Pine Top and 7 miles out of Tarboro. I love to say that. I just want to stand before the board and thank you for reappointing me to the Animal Welfare Advisory Board. I'm glad to see the animal shelter coming up.
Hold your comments there, Mr.
This is about this.
Wait till we get the public petitions there.
Oh, I thought you were saying, okay, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay. Oh, you coming, okay, thank you. Oh, wait. Okay. Is anybody else like to speak in reference to the annual action plan? Hearing none, at this time, I'd like to join the public meeting, and there's no action to be taken at this time.
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing none, we're moving on to the next public hearing. The public hearing is called to propose case of renaming of street to Barfield Lane. I'd like to call the public hearing to order. Mr. Peters, would you please read the public notice?
Yes, sir. The Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners will hold an evidentiary hearing during the next regular meeting on Monday, May 5th, 2025 at 6:00 p.m. in the Jonathan Felton Commissioners Room located on the second floor of the Edgecombe County Administration Building Auditorium located at 201 St. Andrew Street, Tarboro, North Carolina. The purpose of this hearing is to consider and act upon case 25-SAR01, a request for a street renaming. The street is located off the south side of NC 124 East Pine Tops in Township Number 8. The street abuts parcel numbers 4713-2432-3100, 4713-230-86800, 4713-239-07200, and 471312983700. The applicant, Justin Barfield, requests to rename the street from Bearfield Lane to Barfield Lane. Copies of a map showing the location of this street are available for public inspection during business hours 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the County Planning Office, Room 205, County Administration Building, 201 St. Andrew Street, Tarboro, North Carolina. All interested citizens are encouraged to attend the hearing and share their thoughts, concerns, and suggestions on this matter. Comments may also be submitted in writing prior to the hearing by emailing them to publiccomments@edgecombeco.com or mailing them to Tammy Faison, Clerk to the Board, P.O. Box 10, Tarboro, North Carolina 27886. Public comments received by mail or email before 5:00 p.m. on Friday, May 2nd, 2025 will be read at the meeting. You may visit the county's website at www.edgecombecountync.gov. For questions related to the street renaming, please contact the Edgecombe County Planning Department at 252-641-7802. By order of the Board of Commissioners of Edgecombe County, Tammy Faison, Clerk to the Board.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, I'd like to call Mr. Durbin Spell forward, our planning director, to add any other details that he feels necessary in answering the questions that you have.
Good evening. Justin Barfield requests to rename a private street from Bearfield Lane to Barfield Lane as his first choice, or Barfield Place as the second choice. The private lane has 6 structures addressed off of it. The purpose of the request is to create clarity. The planning board voted unanimously to forward the street renaming request to the Board of County Commissioners with a favorable recommendations. The technical review committee did not have any comments. In regarding the decision, the Board of Commissioners shall review the application and decide one of the following in accordance with section 2.3.22.f review criteria. 1. Approve abandonment or renaming of all or a portion of the street right-of-way. 2. Denial of street abandonment or renaming. Or 3, remand the application to the planning board for further consideration. I present the applicant, Mr. Justin Barfield, to make any additional comments regarding this case.
Mr. Barfield?
Good evening, Commissioners, County Manager. Essentially, what has sort of precipitated this, it's been about a 25-year headache based off of a clerical error from 2000. It was one of those things where my parents, the original applicants when the E911 process came into play, just kind of accepted it as, hey, it makes for a great story, but no one in our family has had that extra E since 1937. So, with that being said, my wife and I recently acquired in one of the adjoining parcels there on Bearfield Lane, and the decision was made, it's time to get this fixed going forward before any additional addressable structures are constructed on the property. Also, with my parents getting older in age, the concern has kind of been, just based on day-to-day transactions, this is a confusion that is experienced day-to-day, whether it be the pharmacy getting a medication address wrong or the GPS or UPS for getting a package. Now my concern is, what if there was a medical emergency and we call 911 and my father's last name is Barfield, and again the common misconception is to put in that extra E or take it out, and there's 2 or 3 minutes that have been lost in terms of trying to find the house in the first place. So with that being said, we've decided to try to get this wrapped up once and for all and feel like it will offer clarity going forward, just based on, again, day-to-day transactions or even, county or experiences. Environmental Health issued a septic permit on the property, and despite the application having Bearfield Lane, the county health department issued the permit in the name of Barfield Lane on the address. And again, that just kind of goes day in and day out. We'd like to get this fixed to go forward.
So they spelled your name wrong.
Sure, yeah,
There you go.
essentially.
Okay.
So my question is, since I see the mailing address is 46 Bearfield Lane, will that change and take that E out of the address?
Correct, and there is a petition included in the packet signed by all of the affected property owners, including those that are not of any kinship to our family. And per that petition, our family has agreed to pay for any fees that are incurred as far as enacting the name change, including the USPS or United States Postal Service's change of address fees. We're going to take care of that for not only our addresses, but the 5 other addressable structures on the lane for those tenants.
All right.
Do I need to give an address for the public record?
Why don't you put it in the record?
Sure thing.
Put it in the record as you would like it.
Sure thing. Justin Barfield, address 8821 Campfire Trail, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27615.
And the request is to Barfield Lane, B-A-R-F-I-E-L-D?
B-A-R-F-I-E-L-D. That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Is there any other questions, Mr. Barfield?
We'll get you right.
Thank you.
We'll see if we got an opposition. Is there anybody here to speak? Hearing none, we should approve this.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record show that it's now B-A-R-F-I-E-L-D Lane. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'd like to have more of that simple.
Right.
At this time, we call for public petitions. Is there anybody now, Mr. Dance, you can come forward? Okay. Yeah. We already got you in the record, so you can start where you stopped.
Well, really, I was finished.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I just want to say I appreciate y'all for reappointing me to the Animal Welfare Advisory Board, and to see the fruition of the animal shelter and the stages of it. I've been going by taking pictures and got off work early Friday and went over to the little ceremony, and looking forward to following it all the way through, if the Lord will.
Well, we thank you for your service.
thank you.
You've been very good for that board. Anybody else have public petitions?
Yes, sir, Mr.
Please come forward.
Reverend Roosevelt Higgs, Speed, North Carolina. My mailing address is Post Office Box 264, Speed, North Carolina 27881, and my telephone is 252-907-8311. From about 8 o'clock in in the morning to about 8 p.m. at night.
You done lost up a minute.
Okay. Well, I'm here on several things. I'm gonna move. Let me move swiftly then. I want to thank you all for y'all supporting the Charters of Freedom coming to Edgecombe County. I have some booklet here. I don't know if y'all have these yet or not, manager, but I'm gonna give it about 7 of them. Now I got 7 more. But I think it's a very good display, and it's generating some very positive conversation here in Edgecombe County. And I was hoping that the date and everything for the dedication of it could have been done in a fashion where we could have got it publicized.
Need one more.
And, okay, I have to take it for this. And that we could have gotten it publicized, because I think it should be an opportunity for the community to come together.
Well, that day will be publicized.
Okay. Yeah, I just noticed, this Tyler book, the May edition has gone out, so it's probably too late for that.
We missed that one, Reverend Higgs.
Yeah, but maybe we can do the Rock 'em Out Telegram, the Tar River Times, and also your radio station. It's a very beautiful display, and I'm proud to be a part of the committee that has worked hard to get it here. And we thank the manager and you all for your support. And also on May the 18th at 6 o'clock, they're doing a special salute to Reverend Dr. Thomas L. Walker out of Rocky Mount for the work that he had done to Edgecombe County and other areas. And I'd like to ask the county commissioner if y'all would generate a resolution honoring his service to Edgecombe County and have it presented at that event. It can be on the 18th at 6 o'clock at Showers of Blessing Church there in Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Without any objections from the board, I would support that. Mr. Evans, would you generate that resolution? Hearing no objections from the board.
Okay, and also I brought to y'all attention a little while back too about the bridge naming for Mr. Clemmer, and y'all signed off on a resolution, and it seemed like to me this thing going into at least the 2nd year now, and I know that there have been some other bridges and road naming, and I just want y'all, if y'all would, just reach out and see what's taking it so long for to get the bridge named in honor of Mr. Walter Clemmer Jr. for the town of Princeville. And I also asked y'all one time before, to do a sign saying Edgecombe County, home of the oldest town charted by blacks in America, Princeville, North Carolina. I think would help tourism, and it's just a matter, I think somebody grabbing the bull by the horn and trying to make it happen. And thank you for your time.
I'm gonna ask you to ask Princeville to grab that bull. Okay. Okay, and I thank you for your continued service and what you've done for all of our committees that you served on. Thank you so much.
Okay, and I have some other things over that Charles of Freedom, I'm going to manage 7 copies of this. And in that book that I just gave y'all earlier, it goes to show how some of those other ceremonies were carried out in other areas, and I hope the Edgecombe County do our work to make sure we have great attendance and everybody be happy on one accord. Okay, I think that should be this 7. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Reverend Higgs.
Thank y'all for your service. We continue to pray much for Reverend Hines.
Thank you, Reverend Higgs. Is there anybody else to speak? None public hearing. Hearing none, we'll move on to scheduled appointments. Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As you all know, we partner with the Edgecombe Community College to create the Edgecombe Works Office Academy. This 8-week, 96 credit hour program gave the participants industry-recognized credentials that will help them grow as team members. We are honored to be able to present to our 2nd round of graduates, our employees, our staff members who participated. And I'm going to invite Dr. Greg McLeod, President of the Community College, to come forward, make some remarks, and make those presentations.
Good evening, Chairman Wiggins, Vice Chair Harris, Commissioners, Manager Evans, Administrators, staff, visitors, and guests. It is always a pleasure and an honor to be here with you, but in particularly this night as we celebrate and honor the graduates of the 2nd class of the Edgecombe Works Office Skills Academy. So I want to thank you all for your support, your funding, as well as your trust in us as a college to deliver this program for your employees. That is something that we take not lightly, we take seriously, and we want to make sure that we're providing the best education and training that we can, not just for county employees, but for all of our residents and everyone who chooses to be served by the college. Also, just want to congratulate, and we met with them earlier this evening, just want to congratulate again those employees who took advantage of this, not just for this second class, but also the class last year. And we also have a class going on right now with another version of the class that is dealing with hands-on, so a tech skills academy as well. So we want to congratulate and thank them all again for taking advantage of this. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Paige Ashman. She is the coordinator of this program. She is also our Lifelong Learning Programs Administrator. So she is going to share with you all some of the details of the program, and then we're going to give the certificates out with your help. All right?
Dr. Cloud,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Evans gave us at lunch what the academy means. Would you or Mr. Evans tell us the significance of the academy? Yes, and then we get, okay.
Sure. As I mentioned a couple of years ago, we drafted a new vision statement for the county. We call it a two-sided vision statement. One side faces to our citizens, and it talks about all that we know and hope that our county can be. The other side faces inward towards us as an organization. That is who we need to be to help our citizens, our county, to reach that vision. So for the side of the vision statement that faces inward, the first line of it says that Edgecombe County will value its employees so that, and so we really focus on that first sentence, and we look for ways to do even more to value our employees. And so part of that is that we want to train our staff as best as we can. And so we've worked hard to create a number of different training opportunities in addition to the things that we're already doing. And part of that was reached out to Dr. McLeod and his team, and they were able to pull together this program. In our community college system, they're able to stack together credentials, individual certificates that a person can receive, stack those together. If it's at least 96 credit hours, it can be packaged as an academy. So you'll hear as Ms. Worsham comes up, she's going to talk about those individual certificates that our staff were able to get. So we're trying to help our team that are interested in sharpening their skills to accommodate opportunities to do that. So it's a really great opportunity. Thank you all as a board that you've agreed in last year's budget and this current year's budget to fund that. So through that, we're able to cover the cost of tuition, books, and fees. And then there are some funds that go directly to the participant that helps to defray some of their out-of-pocket expenses with going to class. It's quite a commitment to them. It's several weeks long, and lots of classes and lots of tests they have to take. And they've hung in there, and they're graduated. They're getting their certificate tonight. So we're super excited about that.
Thank you. Go ahead. Excuse me, guys.
All right. So, Ms. Ashman, can you come on?
Hi. Thank you all for having us tonight and for your continued support for the Edgecombe Works program. Our second Office Skills Academy started January the 14th and ended April the 15th. So they spent quite a bit of time in this class. Throughout those months, they met twice a week. Some of it was they met in person, some of it was online. Like Mr. Evans said, it's 96 hours. But during that 96 hours of instruction, they earned 2 credentials. They earned Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt, which focuses on process and productivity improvement, and OSHA 10 certification, which health and safety. Both of those courses are beneficial in many aspects of their life, not only at work. But they're also stackable credentials, meaning that they can go back and take just another course and build on their credentials. They also receive training in accounting, software applications such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, soft skills training, customer service, leadership skills, communication skills, time management. Just, I'd like to take a second and just speak on them personally. I worked with them directly. They are a great group of ladies, and I'm really proud of them. They have families, they have other commitments, and they were focused on this class. They were dedicated. They did what they had to do. They, like I said, they came twice a week. Sometimes they came straight from work. They were just a really fun group, and I've enjoyed to get to know each and every one of them. So again, thank you all for this opportunity, and congratulations to you all. So if you can, that's right, there are 7 here tonight.
Go ahead, you want to present?
Yes, yes, okay. So when I call your name, you can come up. Sharon Clark. Christy Lake. Quadasia Edwards. Esterine Pitt. Paige Medford. Teresa Mallon. And Crystal Mabry. I'd also like to recognize the 2 that were unable to make it tonight, Gloria Mosley and Marilyn Edmonds. And we'll hold on to this, or we'll get it to them.
And if y'all don't mind, if you stand behind the commissioners and would like to take a picture.
I'll get, she'll send it to me.
We have our county manager.
Hold it. Come on
Come on
up.
up. Nellie's gonna be
I
there.
rescinded that, okay.
All right, let me get one.
Can you see?
Got it.
Good job. Knowledge is power. That's right.
Yes.
Well, I guess while you're moving, I'll just speak, because if you want to leave, you can. But as the comments I made during our little luncheon, on behalf of the board, we just like to thank you for your work and our commitment to continue to support you in the workplace and to continue with a continuing education. As I stated at lunch, if there's suggestions you have for us, we certainly want to entertain those. And just on the state what I have said to Mr. Evans in terms of, I've asked Mr. Evans to reach out to the community college and to our school system also to make them inclusive in this program. I think it's an excellent program, and it's something that I stated to them is our budget is never too small to support our employees. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
Any comments from our board? Any board?
As someone who works in the same kind of capacity as you ladies, I understand, and the older we get, we have to refresh our minds, because technology is changing, everything is changing. If we want to stay on top of things, just encourage those that work around you to join the same program, so that y'all all will be flying high for your next assignment.
And you know, and we do need certification. You know, I had this story told to me. There was a young man, and he finished school, and he had a certificate in one of the training programs at high school. He went to service, and he presented that certificate, and it got him promoted real fast, really. Which, on what I guess I'm really saying, even coming out of high school, some of us didn't understand the need for certification. Okay, and certification now is real important in the workplace. And as we will continue as those needs come forward. We will continue to help you get this. Sometimes you might come to us not with a certification, and we see that you can get those certifications. We want to help you. Thank you so much for the work that you do. Okay, we want to keep you here in our county. Okay, our taxpayers. Okay, right? Thank you so much for the work that you do. Dr. McLeod, thank you and the community college. Now, without any further comments, moving on. Is there a motion to recess the regular Board of Commissioners meeting and reconvene as Board of Equalization and Review?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we are now sitting as the Board of Equalization and Review, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call forward Ms. Teresa Lewis, our tax administrator, who will lead us through this process tonight.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
So you should have a vanilla folder in front of you that contains your agenda for this evening, along with the recommendations for the 3 cases we have before you tonight. So I'll just start out with our first appellant is Mr. Billy Trevathan, and he is here tonight. So I'm going to read our overview and then let him come forward to speak his case. Okay. All right, so appellant's basis for appeal is subject property is appraised at more than its fair market value. Taxpayer felt the subject property was assessed as a residential building site. After review of the property record card and new soil analysis from the GIS department, appraisal staff confirmed that the property is in fact being assessed as agricultural property. We did a small change in relation to the land segment grade based off of the new soil analysis, and recommended value is in line with our current schedule of values. Unfortunately, the tract is too small to qualify for any PUV program deferments, which reduces the taxable value. And our recommendation is $36,550. And I'll let Mr. Trevathan come forward.
Chairman and fellow commissioners, Billy Trevathan, live at 247 South Shiloh Farm Road. I probably have about 60 acres of land in Edgecombe County, but I'm here tonight to see what you can do about helping with 4.3 acres partial. It's located, if you go Princeville, go 111, like going to Oak City, the first crossing after you get past Southern Terrace is Shiloh Farm Road. And it's on the corner, it's on the west corner of Shiloh Farm Road and 111. Normally I wouldn't have no problem with the valuation, but I've had it checked for perking 2 times. I would love for it to put a business out there, but it won't perk. So at the time, I'm just letting a farmer use it free, keep me from having to mow it, and look after it. So I'd appreciate it if you could drop the value on it some, unless you want to send me some sewage out there, you can raise it some. But anyway, that's what I want. And however what farm use value is, will be satisfied to me.
Help us with, Ms. Lewis, in terms of you saying it's farmland.
That's the only thing it's good for now.
I'm asking, go ahead, Ms. Lewis.
If I could, I'd put a business out there.
Yes, sir. And if you see the aerials on the back, this is the tract of land that he's talking about on the corner of Shiloh and 111. And you can see the tended fields is currently on your application. You said Mr. Harrell is the tenant that actually farms that acreage. And if Johnny can zoom out just a little bit, you can see he owns some tracts down beneath her, and when I say he, Mr. Trevathan, that follows through those land, and so he continues to have several acres there, the Harrell's farm. The problem with the valuation not being qualified for present use value is that it's not a large enough tract. You're required to have at least 10 acres of tended land with $3,000 worth of income to qualify for that program. This tract is only 4, and if Mr. Trevathan had not sold the lot under it and kept that a contiguous lot, he could have put that tract that is actually being tended, could possibly have qualified on its own. But because of that, therefore you don't get the deferment, which allows farmers to pay a reduced rate. But the land is considered excellent to good according to our soil analysis, and we were able to, we had 2 acres in excellent, 2 acres in good, and we put all 4 acres in just good, which brings it to $8,500 an acre. And that is consistent with the tracts of land that is in the same use across the street, beside it, across the road. Fortunately though, those tracts are larger, which makes it a lesser price per acre because the larger tract of land reduces your price per acre. And again, the issue with this is when our schedule values calls for with a small tract of land, the best and highest use at this point is not residential, but it is in fact agricultural, and the program doesn't allow for any further discounts with that.
Do you have any further comments, Mr. Trey? Do you have any further
I'm a
comments?
little bit hard of hearing, so
Do you have any further comments, sir?
no, I just want to be fair.
You've heard the recommendations of staff and you heard the comments of Mr. Trevathan. Is there a motion from the board?
So
Move. Second. Questions?
And to be clear, the motion to.
The motion, that was a motion to approve, to approve the recommendations of the tax assessor. Okay. And there's a second. Questions? Go right ahead.
I'd like for us to think, so we're saying that the value, that we view this as farmland, like the highest and best use for this property is farmland.
That's correct, and that's how it's being
But
assessed currently.
And he really can't build on it until we give him sewer, which I think we've had that discussion with you, Mr. Trevathan, and
Right,
that
we
was
did.
gonna be several hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is there a path for any of us on this board to make an adjustment to act as if it is in present use value? Could we make that decision because we openly said that its highest and best use is in farmland?
We also are openly saying that the best and highest use is farmland, but we're also assessing it at that best and highest use according to our scheduled values currently. So we're not assessing this as a home site, which is unbuildable. That would be $16,000 to $18,000 an acre. We're currently assessing it at $8,500 an acre for a home site, for agricultural, so.
Which is what we do for all properties of the
Yes.
same.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but farmers get the present use value they get to defer that property tax.
Well, but it appears that the assessor is saying that
Size kills it.
that the size does not fit into what has been.
That's why I'm asking the question, is there a path for us to make that adjustment for this property on?
And to me,
That
that's-
is for the board.
And to me, that path would be the exception. And do we make exceptions?
To be
I don't-
a little more clear, that 10-acre requirement is not the county's requirement, that's the state statute requirement.
Okay.
We have discussed with Mr. Trevathan the fact that some of his other wooded land that he has, that he's currently never applied for that program, but he could possibly, meet those qualifications. And so our appraisal staff has discussed those options with him on his woods lands that he owns, across the county. But, that is a different qualification, that is 20 acres, and that's woods land, and he does have, it seems to have enough to qualify for that, to help reduce that piece of it. But as far as this one doesn't go inside with the other.
But I think I do recall Mr. Trevathan coming up, and I think we asked Mr. Matthews to go out and look at that, and whether we could help him with sewer, okay. And I wish we could, because I would like to see something on that corner, okay? I would love to see growth there, okay?
Well, I thought maybe with principal buying the farm right there, that they were gonna develop that, but they're developing what I call the whole.
And if that is the case, and if we can help, and if we, anyway, based on, I guess, the use, we would certainly want to see sewer go down there. And if at any point that it is developer and we could get a plan of action from Princeville where we could get the funding for that, we certainly would in the future look to that. I would love to see it go down there. Okay. But at the present time, we do have a motion before us. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. All opposed? One is opposed. Let it be known that the vote is two opposed. Okay. We have confirmed the assessor's position. Okay. Next.
Appellate 2 in your packet is located on Aztec Drive over on the Rocky Mount side near Leggett Road, if any of you are familiar with that area. It is Mr. Dennis Womble. To my knowledge, he is not here tonight. And this is what we call a consent item. We had previously discussed our findings with him, and he agreed with those. So he chose not to come before you, but because it did come in during the setting of your time frame, you have to say yay or nay on this particular property. So I'll read the overview on both properties. The second one is also belonged to him. It's very similar to circumstances. And it is located at 2140 Leggett Road, and that is appeal number 3. Appellate's basis for appeal is subject property is appraised at more than its fair market value. Taxpayer felt the subject property is unbuildable due to the flooding. Appraisal staff made an on-site visit and was able to determine that the lots had ditches that ran through them, which makes this unbuildable. A topography adjustment was made, and the taxpayer accepted the new value. So we were, best and highest use on these 2 lots is a home site. We were valuing it as a home site, even though it's wooded at $14,000 for each lot. And we have now made a topography adjustment And then in my attachments, you can see that in one of them, you have a ditch that runs pretty much through that. And then on the other map, it drops off severely, where I wouldn't call it a ditch, but it's a big drop off. So after speaking to Rocky Mount, they will allow elevation adjustments, so they will have sewer and water. But because of the ditch and the land itself, they're pretty much an unbuildable lot. So we have adjusted that down based off of that and recommending $3,500 each.
That's for each lot.
For each lot, yes, sir. And that would be 2 separate motions if you choose that.
Is there anybody here speak for the appellant? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve?
First for Aztec Avenue.
Motion to approve
What was
Aztec
that?
Avenue.
Motion to approve Aztec Avenue.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. It is approved. Is there a motion to approve Leggett Road? Is that Leggett Road? It was two, right? The motion to approve Leggett Road?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved.
Okay, thank you for that. That is, like I said, the last for this evening. We have been very busy in the last few days receiving applications for appeals. They came in at the last minute. So we have about 15 total to be heard. And we are asking to adjourn this meeting until May 21st, when you guys meet again for your budget session, to actually sit in as the Board of Equalization and review that day to hear your the rest of the scheduled appeals. And then at our June meeting, we will adopt our final valuation. If that is okay with you guys, I think that's the plan for us.
Any objections to the recommendation?
No.
Is there anything else coming for the board?
No, sir. I just would like to say that at 5 o'clock today, the Board of Equalization Review is no longer accepting any further appeals for the 2025 tax year.
Any other comments, anything from the board? Here none, is there a motion to recess as the Board of Equalization Review until May 21st, 2025, and reconvene regular Board of Commissioners meeting? I hear the motion.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we now stand again as the Board of Commissioners. Moving on, Ms. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Next, you have budget amendments for your consideration. There are 6 that require your approval. You'll see budget amendment number 1 from the Department of Social Services, moving between lines to address shortages in some lines. Budget amendment number 2 is to make a correction for an amount received from a particular grant source. It was budgeted as 2015, should be 2051, so that would be correcting that. Budget amendment number 3 is to appropriate additional receipts in both the inmate pay-tail deposit line as well as the DSS trust revenue. Budget amendment number 4, you'll see in solid waste moving funds from the temporary salary and part-time line to other lines as needed. Budget amendment number 5 is to appropriate funds. This is part of the unwinding of our financial arrangement through Horizon Health Partners for the Biotech Center there at the community college to pay for some legal fees related to the closing and unwinding of that whole financing structure. And you'll see noted there that these legal fees will be reimbursed from the Horizon Health Partners account. And then budget amendment number 6, you'll see, is a 2-page budget amendment, and that is moving among salary and related lines between departments to make sure that we account for any shortages in any of those departments. The rest are for your review. The others are those that I have approved and those reviewed by Ms. Barfield. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Motion?
Motion to approve 1 through 6 amendments.
Second?
Second.
Questions?
Just a comment. I love budget amendment number 4, moving from temporary and part-time to regular is really good. It's a lot more expensive to have temporary employees than it is to have
Instead of the
regular.
other way around, instead of the contract.
I'll fight all the other ones, but I like seeing that amendment, so good job on doing that.
So which one you gonna fight in? Are you ready? All in favor, let me know by vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No fight. No fight, Mr. Evans.
All right,
You
good.
got off.
Let's keep going, well, okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Business item B is to approve the Town of Tarborough's fireworks application. You'll see it's been received and reviewed by Mr. Antoine Brown, our Emergency Service Director. This is for their 4th of July fireworks display, and recommendation is for your approval.
The motion?
Motion.
Questions? All in favor, let me know by vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none is approved.
Do you have maps, Steve?
No, not yet, but
They always late.
But
We need to get on that.
why don't we make sure that we give them a call?
yes, sir. Mr. Brown has already had
Okay, so
conversation
that
with them. Yes, sir.
they won't come in.
And we expect it before you at your June meeting.
Right, okay. Next, go ahead.
Next is consideration of a resolution to recognize May as Older Americans Month, and I'm going to ask Ms. Natalie Best, our Deputy County Manager, to come and read that, and then she's going to present that to Ms. Deborah Coley, our Director of our Office on Aging, who's going to receive it on behalf of our senior population in the county.
A resolution recognizing May as National Older Americans Month in Edgecombe County, North Carolina. Whereas May is nationally recognized as Older Americans Month, a time to acknowledge the contributions of older adults to our communities and to raise awareness about issues affecting them. And whereas since 1963, Older Americans Month has been a time to celebrate the achievements and vital contributions of older adults across the nation. And whereas the theme for Older Americans Month 2025 is Flip the Script on Aging, with a focus on transforming how society perceives, talks about, and approaches aging. It encourages individuals and communities to challenge stereotypes and dispel misconceptions. And whereas Edgecombe County, North Carolina recognizes the importance of honoring our older residents and appreciates the wealth of knowledge, experience, and wisdom they bring to our community. And whereas, according to the latest census data, Edgecombe County is home to nearly 10,000 older adults aged 65 and older, comprising 21.2% of the total population, with this number expected to grow in the coming years. And whereas Edgecombe County remains committed to promoting the health, safety, and well-being of all its residents, including older adults, by providing access to vital services, fostering a sense of community, and celebrating the diverse contributions of our older citizens. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners for Edgecombe County, North Carolina, do hereby recognize and celebrate National Older Americans Month throughout the month of May 2025, and encourages all residents to honor and support our older adults in their endeavors to connect, create, and contribute to our community. Adopted this the 5th day of May 2025, signed by Leonard Wiggins, Chairman, Board of Commissioners, and Tammy Faison, Clerk to the Board.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Sure,
Hearing,
it's only 10,000.
hearing none, it is approved.
Growing every day.
I'm only including most of
Is
us.
that a copy to be signed there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's signed.
It's already
It's already signed.
Okay.
And we just want to present this to our Aging Director, Ms. Deborah, who's done so much for older Americans here in Edgecombe County.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Golden.
I want to thank the board for this, and we do a lot of things in the county for older Americans. But this month, we're doing something extremely special. We are honoring those among us in our county who are over 90 years old. We have 3 that are over 100. And when I say that, I say they are oriented, they drive. 2 of them still drive. That's scary, but they do.
It's scary. Don't talk about me.
I'm gonna honor you in a few years. Don't worry. But and we have several that still drive. Last year we had one that was 103 that we were fortunate enough for Don Davis to come and take her to meet President Biden. She has since passed away. I tell Eric, we got to honor these people because they die. I mean, every year it seems like we have 2 or 3 of them in our class, as we call them. We also are having a senior awareness at the community college. this month, and we talk about senior safety. The sheriff is there. We have an Are You OK program. We have several things we do in the county, but we especially focus on them in the month of May. So thank you for your support.
Thank you so much.
Can you give us the dates?
Ma'am,
Can you give us the dates of your events?
can I do
The
it?
date.
The dates.
Oh, we have breakfast on, any of you who are interested, we have breakfast on, May 15th. You're more than welcome to come. This is the last one, so if you don't get this one, you won't get another one till September. We have full breakfast, it's catered by the hospital, real good event, we have speakers there, people come and give our seniors information and other stuff. Senior, super senior is what we call them. That is, May 21st. That will be from 12 to 2. Shelley Willingham is coming to speak to our seniors, and we'll have some other people on board to speak to them. They'll have a catered lunch, and then they will also get a gift bag composed of what we call Edgecombe County stuff. We ain't gonna say what the stuff is. It's just stuff.
Surprise, okay.
Yeah. And then on May 29th, at the community college, we're going to have what is known as senior awareness. We talk about the community prayer marriage program. Antoine is a part of that. The sheriff is a part of that. Social services, all the Edgecombe County people. We also have other vendors who come, who bring our seniors some more presents, and we have lunch. And we're gonna try to teach them how to do the what did I tell y'all? Boots on the ground thing. Some of y'all know what that is, some of you don't. But they want to learn the boots on the ground. So that's a part of saying, what is it, flip the switch?
We'll make sure to answer.
I wear my boots.
We don't always have an ambulance. Thank you.
We already here on the 21st.
I can't give you that, Mike. You was a talker. Go on.
I knew you was gonna say that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Next.
Next is item D, which is regarding personnel policy change. Under our current policy, eligible employees are provided up to 4 hours of paid leave per year, specifically to be involved in their child's school or daycare. While this policy has been beneficial, I believe we have the opportunity to further strengthen our commitment to civic involvement by broadening the purpose and increasing the leave to 8 hours annually. The proposed policy would expand eligible uses of community service leave to include a wider range of meaningful activities, such as volunteering at local nonprofit organizations, participating in community cleanup or outreach events, serving as a mentor or tutor, supporting voter engagement or public service initiatives, and continued support for the involvement in children's schools and daycares. This change reflects our belief that strong communities are built not just through government services, but also through the direct involvement of our residents, including our own workforce. Encouraging employees to contribute their time and talents to civic and charitable causes supports our values of community investment, partnership, and shared responsibility. The revised policy still includes safeguards such as supervisory approval, advance notice, and documentation of participation to ensure accountability and minimal disruption to county operations. I recommend that you approve the updated community service leave policy as presented. I'd also want to note, we have a compensation planning team that I formed a couple of years ago when we were first going through the overhaul of our compensation plan. So a number of our team members, we meet almost on a monthly basis to talk about the compensation plan specifically and other things related to, and they also come together and group solve on problems or issues that they come across. This recommendation actually came out of that planning committee, and specifically
the employees.
Yes, they are employees. Yes, sir. And specifically, I believe it was Jason Webb, our head of our IT department, who first brought this to the group, and they've discussed it a couple of times and support this. So I'm bringing that with their recommendation through me. I wholeheartedly support it as well and recommend that you approve this change.
So moved.
Second.
Well, I'm going along with it, but I had the question, Mr. Evans, that we really nice. We give him 4 more hours a year, which I thought it should be more, but all in favor, let it be known by vote saying aye. All opposed, we weren't giving but 4, but I'll look for more next year.
Sure, yes, sir. Let's see how this works first.
Yeah, that's not even an hour a month, but it's better than 4.
Double got 2 hours, they doubled up.
But the employees asked for it. We give them what they asked for. They didn't ask for nothing. They're not good beggars. Next.
Start slow.
There you go.
That's real slow. Next.
Item E is regarding some changes to job descriptions in our compensation plan. I'm requesting your approval of several job descriptions related to positions that are necessary for improving internal operations, providing career advancement opportunities, and supporting organizational stability across county departments. These descriptions have been developed or revised based on operational needs and best practices. A summary of each is provided as follows. First, license plate agency clerk or LPA clerk 2 and 3. These are new positions. These 2 positions are proposed as part of a tiered progression plan for our existing license plate agency clerk position. The addition of the LPA clerk 2 and 3 will establish a clear advancement path, support employee retention, and award growing knowledge and responsibility within the license plate agency. Second is Deputy Director for the Department of Social Services. Though we're adding this is actually one we used to have, but when we overhauled the compensation plan, at the time we thought it would be best to do away with that. But since it's come as a recommendation from Ms. Battle and I support it, this position is recommended to enhance the internal leadership structure of our Department of Social Services. As the largest and most complex department, and one of the most complex departments, DSS would benefit significantly from the addition of a deputy director to support daily operations, provide strategic leadership, and ensure continuity of leadership in the director's absence. Third is an administrative officer. This is an existing position that's on our compensation plan, but we do not have a job description for it. This is already included, as I mentioned. However, until now, there's not been a formal job description. So we need to make use of that, and so therefore we need that job description approved by you. I recommend that you approve the attached job descriptions for the LPA Clerk 2 and 3, Deputy DSS Director, and Administrative Officer, as well as the accompanying revision to the county's compensation plan. I will note that we, in error, left that out of your agenda packet, but you have a copy of that. And just those positions, they're being added to your compensation plan. Also, finally, I want to note that this is not requesting additional appropriation to add new staff, new additional FTEs. It's just to add these positions and the opportunity for current staff to be promoted. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might
Let me ask you a question before I get a motion. Any questions?
Yeah, I'd like for us to exclude the deputy director position and let that go through budget committee and then come through a budget meeting, because we're adding a grade that's the 10th highest paid employee in the county, and before we go through a budget session. So I think that if we're hiring someone at that level of pay, it should go through a budget session and a request through that. That would be my recommendation or my request. Whenever we've hired or added a deputy director or a director, it's always come through those requests, I feel like.
I don't think it is necessary to come through those requests. I think we can add it. It does not necessarily have to be funded until such time as it goes through the budget. So my position would be to proceed with adding it and requesting no hire.
I thought DSS had it already.
We used to, in our old compensation plan, we used to have that.
Right.
When we redid the compensation plan, the thought was at the time to do away with the deputy director, and we have I think they're called system administrative program. I can't remember the exact name, but after having time to revisit that and think through that, we feel like for the future, just organizational structure and succession planning opportunity to add that back.
Why don't I request that you give us one at a time? We act on them one at a time, okay, in terms of, these were the positions. Go ahead, state the first one you asked.
Yes, sir. So the first recommendation is to add, and these are new positions on the compensation plan. It's not budgeting additional FTEs in this department, but to add the additional positions of a license plate agency clerk 2 and 3. We have currently a 1, or just a license plate clerk. But this request is to add a 2 and 3 of those positions.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So that is approved. Next.
Second is requesting the addition of the Department of Social Services Deputy Director position at a grade 11 on our compensation plan.
Motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And I'll second it.
Questions? Well, I think Mr. Thorne has already stated his opposition. Any other questions? All in favor, let it be known by voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed. Next, moving on.
And then finally is the administrative officer. This position already exists on our compensation plan, asking your approval of the job description that's presented.
Motion.
So when you say it already exists, the budget's already there for that?
We have the positions, we don't have a job description for them, that's what you're saying?
Right, we don't
We've
have
got
any-
people that are working in those positions.
No, we don't have anyone in an administrative officer position. When we overhauled our compensation plan, we tried to modernize our titles. In some cases, these were titles people were already in. This is a position that no one was in at the time. But in order for us to consider using in the future, we will need a job description. We did not do all new job descriptions at the time because there were just so many. But this is one that we feel like we have an opportunity to promote an existing position in a department to this. But before we can do that, we need to have a job description.
Should it be on this, in this sheet?
It's already on there. I didn't highlight it because it's already, but it is,
Well, I don't see it. Administrative assistant 2?
administrative officer. It's a grade 4.
Okay.
It'll be on the second page near the top.
Yeah, okay.
And you'll see some similarities if you scroll through our compensation plan. We have administrative assistant 1, 2, and 3. We have other similar positions. This is similar to an administrative assistant position. There are differences you'll see in the job description. There's also the opportunity to assign some programmatic and a higher level of task and authority in that position. That's why it is at a grade 4. But again, this was already on the approved compensation plan. We just did not have a job description for it.
And that I don't understand. How you create a position and you don't have what you're gonna do with it. It should be together.
It would. It would have been nice to be able to do that, but we had so many positions that we were adding here, we just were not able to do all new job descriptions at the time. So our approach has been, as we've seen the opportunity to use them, that we brought, and we brought a number of them to you before. But we can't assign someone or promote or hire someone to a position unless we have a job description.
That makes sense.
Did I get a motion?
No, sir. No, sir.
Motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm opposed.
Motion passed 5-1. Did we take action on everything?
You did, yes, sir.
Moving on?
Find my place back in. Next is item F regarding House Bill 765, and there are a number of bills that have been enacted in the General Assembly. Some are at different stages of progression than others, but a number of them that would affect counties in one way or another. This is one, in my opinion, that will have a great effect on you all's ability to make local decisions as it relates to zoning, planning, and development. And this is one that seems to be gaining some traction within the General Assembly. And you've had a chance to see the resolution itself, but generally, to summarize, House Bill 765 would make amendments to Chapter 160D in the North Carolina General Statutes. 160D encompasses all the rules and regulations and authority that's given to counties and towns for planning and zoning. sort of a summary or overview of what the changes include. It includes restrictions on local authority. It would prevent counties and cities from enacting development regulations that would be more restrictive than state law unless it's related to a floodplain management. Therefore, it reduces local discretion. It expands vested rights. Developers would gain longer vesting periods from 2 to 5 or even 8 years once a site plan has been approved. So that extends the time that once the site plan has been approved for them to actually get the project underway. You all could make zoning changes or development changes or change your opinion about things. And so the idea is not to extend that but so far so that you have an opportunity to make changes, or future boards to make changes in how you would decide if you want it. It includes some mandated densities. The bill requires minimum residential densities by right, 4 to 6 units per acre depending on county population, effectively removing the ability of counties to control growth in rural or infrastructure limited areas. It puts restrictions on design and infrastructure standards. Local governments would be prohibited from requiring specific building design elements, buffer yards, and multifamily housing, sidewalks unless connected. You couldn't require sidewalks unless it's connected to existing ones, parking space sizes, and a number of other things. So overall, this is one that the Association of County Commissioners has watched very closely and sent out an alert that this bill has been moving, and therefore recommended that counties consider contacting our legislators or take whatever other action you would feel necessary. So with that said, my recommendation would be to adopt the resolution that opposes North Carolina House Bill 765 here in session 2025 for those reasons stated, and after doing so, we would share this with our legislative delegates.
Your motion?
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It is approved. Next.
Next is a resolution to recognize Clerks to the Board of Commissioners Week, May 4th through the 10th of 2025. And if I may, unless one of the commissioners would like to read the resolution.
I'll let you read it.
All right. Grabbed the wrong one. That's not House Bill 765. So before you is a proclamation recognizing the week of May 4th through May 10th, 2025 as clerks to the boards of county commissioners. Whereas the role of the clerk to the Board of County Commissioners, or clerk, is crucial for maintaining an informed community and facilitating effective local governance through communication among citizens, governing bodies, and administrative departments. And whereas the position of clerk, one of the oldest in local government, continues to be essential as the official record keepers of their counties with responsibilities that are deeply rooted in history. And whereas the North Carolina General Statute 153A-111 requires every Board of County Commissioners to appoint or designate a clerk to the board to perform any duties that may be required by law or the Board of Commissioners, including, but not limited to, the preparation, filing, and protection of local government records, which are vital for accountability and transparency. And whereas clerks enhance their professional skills through active participation in the North Carolina Association of County Clerks to the Boards of Commissioners, which, in partnership with the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill School of Government and the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, offers nationally recognized certification programs and continuous professional education. And whereas clerks, through their dedication to professional development, not only improve the efficacy of their offices, but also bring positive recognition to their counties by participating in advanced education and obtaining profession-related certifications. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners that the week of May 4th through May 10th, 2025 will be recognized as Clerks to the Board of County Commissioners Week in Edgecombe County, and extends its appreciation to the clerk of our board, Ms. Tammy Faison, and to all county clerks for the vital services that they perform and their exemplary dedication to the county they represent. For your consideration here tonight, May 5th, 2025.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. So I introduce to you our clerk to the board, Ms. Tammy Faison, who has been with us how long, Ms. Faison?
A year next Tuesday.
You off probation.
You made
So
it.
you'll be with us a while. Okay. Thank you for your service. Okay. Anybody else? Hearing none, moving on.
Item H is regarding fee schedule in the Health Department for environmental health. Attached is a proposed change to the Health Department's fee schedule for environmental health. Proposes the addition of a site visit inconvenience fee of $25 for environmental health. At their last meeting, the Human Services Board unanimously approved recommending this fee should say change. Recommend for your approval.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You have your bad debt policy right off as aye. Any, is there a motion? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on to J, Ms. Evans.
Item J, you'll see requested changes to our current year's 8 home and community care block grant funding. You'll see the changes are described there in your agenda packet. Happy to review those if you would like. And if you have any questions, Ms. Barfield is here tonight and she works closely with that program.
Any questions in reference to that?
My reading the letter from the Right Center, does that affect our budget or is that just grant funds?
Just grant funds.
So it's just changing they just didn't have an amendment to offset cost in
That's
there.
correct.
But there's no county funds mixed in that.
That's all ACCBG.
90% Fed state, 10% Hawaii.
Any other questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. I'm looking for my appointment. Next is appointments. We have Ms. Michelle Horton, who's recommended for appointment to our Human Service Board to serve as a pharmacist. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, that appointment is approved.
And Mr. Chairman, I was informed earlier today that Mr. Willingham's appointment to the ABC Board, reappointment needs to be considered.
Is there a motion to approve? Is there nomination? I nominate that Representative Willingham be renominated for the ABC Board.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none. After list and releases for review and approval, is there anything to be brought to the board's attention?
No, sir. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Contracts for review and approval. Anything to be brought to the board's attention?
No, sir. You'll see you have 2 contracts, one for Nutrition Plus for a WIC program, one for our auditing service, and then the third is change order number 8 is a correction to a previously approved change order number 8. Recommend your approval.
Any questions before we get a motion on that from the manager?
How often do we bid audit services?
Usually every 3 or 4 years.
So that should be up for bid next year.
We did this year.
Oh, that's
We did?
Yes, sir. Was it okay?
Are they the only one that bid?
I believe so, or we might have had one more.
I think you had one inquiry, but it
Yeah, we had
didn't.
one inquiry, but they backed out.
You have some questions about that, Mr. Thorne, just some thoughts? Okay.
They're handsomely compensated for their audit work.
Well, I think one of the problems we've had, just getting auditors.
We have seen
Yeah.
that higher.
Yeah, we just,
They know that they are
Yeah,
Short list.
yeah.
What was on for this one? We had
Yeah,
passed.
yeah, we had some issues.
I think
Do
that's
I-
the leadership of our CFO here, this, leading that ship.
Did we get a motion? Did we get a motion?
And a second.
All, I didn't get a motion? Okay, motion,
So moved.
second?
Second, yeah.
Yeah, questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none is approved. Department reports, Mr. Evans.
You see that we have our water and sewer update. I'd like to call Ms. Barfield up to present to you our monthly financial summary.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good.
You'll notice in the board reports, it reflects as of April 30th, 2025, the county is generally on target. We've collected approximately 75% of our revenues budgeted, and we've expended about 68% of the budget for the general fund. Our ad valorem taxes are nearly fully collected at almost 95%, which is in line with the expectation. Sales tax represented in this report are for January sales, and that puts us at about 61% collected. Both January and the expected February sales are lower than for the same time period last year. However, at this point, we are still hopeful and on track to meet budgeted expectations overall. So we'll keep an eye on that as we continue to receive the collections. Public safety and education continue to be our largest spending areas, both exceeding 77% of their budget. However, these cost drivers are still tracking as expected. For water and sewer, what we see is that revenues are slightly behind from where we'd hoped they would be. However, the spending remains low, so the fund is stable overall and no concerns at this time. For solid waste, the fees seem to be performing pretty well as expected. They're nearly covering the portion they were intended to cover, designed by the budget. The general fund transfer, which has not yet occurred, will likely be needed for the remainder of the operation, so we'll keep an eye on how much general fund they'll actually wind up needing as we begin to go toward the end of the fiscal year. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Just curiosity, what makes water and sewer revenue behind versus everything else?
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily behind. Let me just get over here. I think that it's just more that when we're just looking at collections spread over 12 months, we just look to or hope to be at a certain percentage by a certain time, each month. And I'm just noting that it's just a little down, but I don't think it's anything to be concerned about at this time.
What is considered cultural and recreational?
Like, for example, our Parks and Recreation mini grant falls under that. I'm not sure.
I think Arts Council and those type things fall under that.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Evans.
I'd like to call up Mr. Durbin Spell, our planning director, to review the planning board report, and we do have an action item that needs your attention for that.
Thank you. The planning board voted unanimously to forward the following conditional rezoning request to the Board of County Commissioners with an unfavorable recommendation. Case 25-CRZ02, applicant C.T. Williams. The applicant has requested to rezone properties located on NC Highway 111 South Macclesfield. The applicant proposes to rezone parcel identification number 3783-67-306H, which consists of approximately 179.27 acres, and parcel number 3783-86-4263, also known as 5046 NC 111 South, which consists of approximately 114.81 acres from AR 30 Rural Residential District to R-20-C Mixed Residential Conditional District with the intended purpose of creating a subdivision with the condition that only single-family site-built detached homes are allowed. The requested action is to call for a public hearing for the June meeting.
What was their main reason for unfavorable?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons, but mainly that the development being proposed did not meet our one of our policy recommendations in our comprehensive plan, which basically focus on maintaining the rural characteristic of the area. And you have the statement that be towards the end of your packet, signed by our planning board chair. It was inconsistent with growth management policy number 5, rural.
Any questions for Mr. Wells? And what was your motion? You asking for a motion for?
To set the public hearing for your June meeting.
Is there a motion?
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir, please.
Before we,
Go ahead.
Mr. Spell, help educate me just a little bit here, and I don't think I'm the only one that could get a little bit of education here. Could be. It is zoned currently at AR-30, correct?
That's correct.
And Mr. Williams and his group, whatever's applied to rezone it at R-20.
That's correct.
Correct?
That's correct.
Is there, maybe this is, I'll go ahead and say it like I think it needs to be said. Is there a happy medium in between a AR-30 and a R-20? And I know that's a loaded question, so I'll back up and just say, help me here in thinking if I'm, okay, I think I can see the difference here is as it is zoned currently. Mr. Williams can go in there tomorrow and start building houses, correct?
Yes, sir.
But he would, if he did so, those family dwellings and lot sizes would have to be 30,000 square feet, right?
Yeah, well, so he would be able to develop it as a conservation subdivision, in which in the AR-30 district, lot sizes is 30,000 square feet, but he would have to set aside a minimum open space requirement of 40 acres. Now, with the conservation subdivision, there's provision that lot sizes could be reduced.
Yes, sir.
It will allow for density up to twice that would be allowed in the normal AR-30 district. So theoretically, you could have like 2 homes on a 30,000 acre site for a conservation subdivision. Now, being that that area is going to be on septic, you're going to get lots that small.
Yes,
so,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
So, excuse me, Family, you did great. Thank you for helping there. Okay, so R-20 decreases that lot size to 20,000 square feet, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then when it in regards to R-20 mixed residential, can you help us with some other things that it changes other than just the lot size? I mean, is that mainly it? That it mainly changes the lot size?
Yeah, and this proposal, that's what we'll do. It will allow for the minimum lot size to be reduced to 20,000 square feet. Because the condition he is offering is to limit the housing type to just site-built homes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I guess just to go ahead and just say it like I think it needs to be said. You know, since it seems like we've either got this group that is for it and this group that is totally against. I mean, it's like it ain't like the north and south, it's like the east and the west, okay?
Yes.
I'm going to say it like it is. Is there a happy medium? I mean, has anyone from the opposing group and anyone from the Mr. Williams group, again, And I know that's a loaded question in regards to, is it a happy medium somewhere there? But is there? Can you throw another zoning ordinance out there for us? I'm just trying to be a peacemaker, if you know what I'm saying here. I'm trying to see if there's some happy grant, because a lot of people out my way, and you know, it's my district.
Yeah.
I mean, we all represent each other's district, don't get me wrong. And I thank you for all that you do for people in my district. But I'm the one that's getting all these calls, okay? Okay?
Oh, yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And here's the truth of the matter. It's probably 50 calls opposing it, and I've only got one call. Now, Mr. Dancy, I'm probably asking for this thing. So I've got 50 opposing and one for. And again, I'm just kind of wondering because I hear from my constituents in that area, if that housing development would be more like what is called the Back Nine subdivision, which, you know, is right down the road from that. I mean, you got a berm here, you got pretty much, I just think a lot of people have trouble with that many homes going on a small acreage lot.
Yeah.
You know, so I've spit everything out I know to spit out here tonight, and I'm just saying, is there some happy medium that could get everybody on the same page? And I know that ain't gonna be done. Okay, you can't get nobody on the same page now for anything, but to get more on the same page, to be a collective as much of a collective agreement in a community as you could have. Rather, you know, we're going to be voting on this thing, and either I know we have all power vested in us to say yes or no. That's fine and good to say yes or no. But if there's some way I could get my people in my area to be great neighbors, if it passes, to be great neighbors to come in, that's what it's all about. Being brothers and sisters to each other. And I'm about to preach now, so I'll hush. Help me here, if you can.
Well, with this being conditional rezoning, the Board of Commissioners do have the option of proposing additional conditions to the applicant. It would be up to the applicant to agree to those conditions. I know you mentioned berm, or maybe limiting the size of the development. You know, there's a number of conditions that could be you know, you could propose to the applicant.
Excuse me, I'm understanding that I guess my understanding has been is that we can't negotiate. Maybe you can, but this board cannot negotiate. Am I correct?
Mr. Spell's right. The board can set conditions on the application if the applicant agrees to it.
We can request conditions.
Yes, sir. Yeah. If he agrees, then they can be conditions for the approval.
But then we not.
Yeah.
Well, it's a new experience for me in terms
Well,
of.
and this law has evolved over the years.
And it's a new experience for me in terms of I was in a position that boards is that the applicant could request it, that we could not necessarily impose, and that's you're saying that we can.
But it's not so much. It's not so much imposition as
If we give them something they don't want, we impose it.
Well, that can't happen. They
Okay,
have to agree to it.
they have to agree to
You
that.
can make proposals, and if the applicant agrees to it, then they can be conditions.
Okay, well, that's a new thought. That's a new thought for me anyway. Okay.
And I apologize for muddying
Well, I think it's a good question. Well, you're not necessarily muddying the water as it relates to speaking to what you feel that your constituent community wants. And I guess it's that the board has a decision to make in terms of the growth of this county. And when it comes to us, we'll have to make that decision then. It's not a decision that we can make until it gets before us. And when it gets before us, we can raise those questions. Or if the board decides, based on me having a new understanding of what I can do, okay, in terms of what we would like to do with it. It has been, you know, there's a lot of, but we're in a new era as a board, And, you know, I guess the thing I've said, you know, I've been here for over 20 years, and there have been very few rezoning requests in the 20 years. So it's a sign, it is a good sign for this county that we are getting requests regardless of what we do with them, okay? So it's good to see. It's good to see that we are put in the position that we can make these decisions. And I think this board is not in a position to make any decision until it gets before us. Did I get a motion? You know, did I get a motion?
Can I?
Go right ahead, please do, please do.
He's already made a condition on here that is kind of a compromise between a 20 and a 30, correct? By saying that he's going to limit to single home, family homes, because he could have built duplexes in an R if it went to an R20, correct?
Yes, and that was one of the arguments that was posed, so that.
So there is a condition there. So my recommendation would be, we're meeting again, correct?
Well, I don't think this is the meeting that we need to do it in.
Yeah, the
This is not-
discussion here
this-
is to consider to call a
This,
public
this,
hearing.
this, I think we need to call the
The
public
point I was getting
hearing.
to was, is there a way that we could have a discussion with Mr. Williams about what he would accept as conditions if we wanted to add more conditions onto this before we went into that meeting?
I think staff could, I don't.
Not as.
I am personally not comfortable. Anything that we need to do needs to be done here in this public forum if we want to raise those questions with him or the public. And that's the opportunity to do it. That's always been my position as it relates to me dealing with anybody as it relates to rezoning issues. It can raise a whole lot of other issues, I believe. Okay.
Motion to call for the public hearing. That was waiting on.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed, I think based on what we've said here, the public understands that what we can do based on the questions that you raised, and so should the petitioner in terms of they can come prepared also if this board has any questions to raise with them, you know. Are there any other questions as relate to this issue? Hearing none, we'll have our debate next. Moving on.
I want to note that you also have in your agenda packet the Community Paramedic Program Monthly Impact Report, and also a letter from the North Carolina Office of Emergency Medical Services. They did a review of our EMS system with Mr. Brown and his staff, and overall I got some very positive feedback. So I want to commend Mr. Brown and his staff for the good work that they're doing there. Under Manager's Report, you have my monthly major events and updates, workforce development indicators, and our TDA monthly financial report. You'll see also that there is an award announcement for the CAB program 2.0, as they call it. Brightspeed has been selected for that award. You also have a copy of the NC Rural Center's listening tour report. You'll notice that they include in that a feature of our Getting Off the List initiative. I will note that I did attend one of those meetings, but they actually picked up on it from the meeting they had in Sampson County. Somebody had heard about it and brought it up, and it was discussed some, so they reached out to me and asked me a few questions about it. Along with that, we've provided a copy of our recent update to our Getting Off the List initiative that we shared with our group. You have in there a summary of possible reforms to Medicaid, as I'm sure you all have been hearing as much as any of us have, of conversations going on as the president as well as both chambers are considering their budget proposals for upcoming fiscal year. They are targeting some major cuts, including Medicaid, and in there is just a brief summary of what the impacts could be, but we certainly won't know until any final decisions are made. But it'll be things that we'll need to prepare for, more importantly to prepare our citizens for if those changes take place. As a reminder, for those who need to do it, the required ethics training for elected officials, we have that scheduled for you on May 22nd at 10 a.m. And also, as was mentioned earlier, our Charters of Freedom unveiling event is...
On that also, we'll be having, is that, no, that's not, go ahead, That's not, go ahead, move on.
The Charters of Freedom unveiling event, May 22nd at 2 p.m., right down here in front of our courthouse. Very excited about that. We've been working with representatives from the organization to plan for that, and very excited. So I hope that you can join us. I don't have it here, but just a reminder, on the 21st, it'll be a busy month for all of us, on the 21st at 10 a.m., as you was indicated earlier, we'll bring back, ask you to reconvene as the Board of Equalization and Review, but also on that same day, we'll be presenting our budget.
Our budget is on the 21st?
Yes, sir. So we'll do that all in one setting. It will be one special meeting. We'll let you go into your Board of E&R. Once you're done with that, then we'll do the budget presentation on May 21st. That's all that I have for my report.
Any questions of the manager? If not, commissioners, anything from commissioners?
Got one.
Go right ahead.
I went to everybody's favorite place, the Bay Road Dump, the other day. And they tell me that if you're having a problem with your pass or whatever, you call the tax office. They got the number up there on the wall. Then they tell me that nobody from the tax office ever calls them.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know, I've said this before and I'll say it again. That when people call the county, their constituents, the people that pay taxes, I wish somebody would return the call.
Yes, sir. So
Whatever department, whatever person, whoever it is.
Yes, sir.
Any other commissioners? Hearing none. Mr. Peters?
No, sir.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're scheduled to go into closed session, discussing economic development and a personnel matter. Is there a motion to go into closed session, discuss such?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let's also recognize our past, did you have any comments? Our past extension director. Stand on up.
I'm a county employee now.
He's a county employee
He's
now.
back, he works in the tax office.
You what?
That's right.
Real property appraisal.
Oh, do you? Well, see, I'm done. I didn't know.
Most recent new employee there.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We're pleased to have you back,
I'll
okay?
be looking forward to that strawberry ice cream.
Hey,
He missed us and we missed him.
oh, you retired?
Zero peppermint.
Welcome back. Is there anybody else out here that came that didn't get an opportunity to say something that you need?
I got a question.
We didn't get it.
All of our meetings, all these meetings are open to the public. And all these meetings are, the training, that would be noticed because that we expect to have more than a quorum. Anything that's more than a quorum, okay? Expect to be a public meeting. Okay. I better not ask nobody else. Meeting adjourned. We going to executive session. Well, motion to go to executive session. So moved. Did we get a vote?
Sorry, Vince.
Okay, we going to executive session, okay.
Miss Tammy?
Yes.
All opposed? We're now in open session. Go ahead.
All right, we're in open session, we're good to go.
Is there anything to come in, and it better not be
No,
in open session?
nothing.
Nothing else for today.
Yeah, second.
All in favor, let it be known by vote sign aye. All opposed, we stand adjourned. Okay.